A South Carolina mother of two calls 911 for help to escape an abusive ex. Then she disappears. Now, months later, her remains are found in a wooded area as officials confirm she was shot in the head. Jamila Smith was reported missing in early December by her family. Her family reports Jamila was in an argument with her ex-boyfriend, 33-year-old Daniel Gabriel Harmon, while driving back from Columbia, South Carolina. According to the Aiken County Sheriff's Office Dispatch Center, they received a call shortly before 9 p.m. on the evening of December 2nd. Jamila reportedly called 911 saying her ex-boyfriend came to her home and she was trying to get away from him. According to reports, the dispatcher who took the phone call said she sounded out of breath and also reported hearing an engine revved. Jamila said the words, "You hit me," and told the man to leave her alone. Then the phone appeared to drop, but a man's voice could be heard telling her to get in the car so he could take her to the emergency room. Jamila reportedly continued to scream, saying, "Don't touch me, please, and you hit me." Officials wouldn't find her body until 5 months later in May of this year, as her body was found discarded in a wooded area in Aiken, South Carolina. Jamila's ex-boyfriend, Daniel Harmon, was arrested on December 5th after officials allegedly found him under the influence in North Augusta. According to the Aiken Standard, Harmon was in a standoff with police after they tried to serve a warrant charging him with second-degree domestic violence. The warrant alleged Harmon strangled Jamila in November with a child present. And that wasn't the only instance of previous domestic violence. Jamila's family told USA Today she had a history of calling authorities on her ex-boyfriend due to domestic violence, including 3 times last year in July, August, and November.
Well, reading stories just seems like a tragic story that we've often seen a lot, a cycle of domestic abuse. And you have a woman, in this case, who's trying to seem like she tried to break away from it. And unfortunately, she lost her life. And I think it's just a tragic situation as a whole.
I spoke with South Carolina-based criminal defense attorney Tyler Bailey, who explained Jamila's last moments must have been filled with terror.
I don't know all the details on the extent of their relationship. I do know that there was that call that happened previously. There was a history between the two. And then you have the call actually from her again in this tragic situation where she lost her life, or the day before, I believe, when she went missing, that she called. And there you could hear her audibly say, "I don't want to jump ahead," but she mentioned, "You hit me." And so it's one of those things where law enforcement likely was already aware of their problems. It sounds like it was a violent altercation that happened where he hit her with his car. First, that's what it sounds like. Maybe that he first hit her with the car. The investigators in their affidavit mentioned hearing an engine rev, and then she says, "Stay away from me," or something of that sort. And now that we learn from the autopsy that her death was ruled by a gunshot to the head, sounds like he may have hit her, put her in a vehicle, and then drove her somewhere and shot and killed her, which is just tragic. And when you think about it, what she was experiencing, the pain and likely fear of what was next prior to her losing her life. So, my thoughts really go out to her family and friends who have learned about this and just thinking about what she experienced in her last waking moments.
Jamila's ex-boyfriend, Daniel Harmon, was later charged in late December on charges including kidnapping and murder. Jamila's 911 call plus evidence, including blood allegedly found in the trunk of Harmon's 2023 black Dodge Charger, would lead investigators to Harmon. Earlier, officials believed Harmon hit her with a car. And this week, after Jamila's remains were found, the medical examiner confirmed she died from a gunshot wound to the head. Jamila's mother previously spoke to USA Today, telling the outlet for 2 years there have been several 911 calls from her daughter about Harmon. After her disappearance in December, Jamila's mother saw she had emailed someone at the Aiken County Sheriff's Office on November 11th, just 2 days after calling authorities. However, her email went unanswered. The sheriff's office said the email sent contained 2 photos related to a domestic violence case against Harmon. And once Jamila sent the email, the deputy obtained a warrant for second-degree domestic violence. But Jamila's mother previously said she felt like police failed her.
Understanding Jamila was a survivor of domestic violence, right? She was in a bad situation. And I do understand why they feel like the authorities failed her, whether it was from that first call that happened and not possibly jumping on it sooner, or if it's prior incidents of maybe, I don't know if there's any restraining orders that were issued, orders of protection, why this cycle couldn't have been broken. I did do some research. I read about one incident where she lost her phone because he threw it out the window. Then she retrieved it, but went back there. I think that goes to the cycle. I believe her family probably very supportive of her and wanted her to rid herself of that situation. And authorities were likely involved. They knew about the toxic relationship that they were in, but unfortunately it wasn't broken. So I understand why her family feels like that.
But Harmon wouldn't be the only person charged in the case.
We need to take a quick pause out of this really devastating story to bring you a law and crime legal alert. If you don't know, Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. But there's a team stepping up to help. Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is helping users file for compensation due to Google misleading the privacy of their incognito browser. So if you use Google Incognito anytime since 2016, here's what you're going to do. Go to incognitoclaims.com/LC News, take the questionnaire, and in less than 10 questions, you can start a claim. Again, that's incognitoclaims.com/LC News.
Last month, a second person was charged in connection with the case. On April 19th, Brian Alexander Hampton Jr. turned himself in on charges of being an accessory after the murder. Hampton is reportedly Daniel Harmon's cousin. Authorities say Hampton knew about Jamila's death and once he found out, helped his cousin by providing transportation, a cell phone, and assisted in the disposal of Jamila's remains. And earlier this month, a third man was arrested in connection to Jamila's murder. Authorities arrested Clyde James Henley II, also charging him with being an accessory after the fact. Officials say Henley was an associate of Daniel Harmon and helped dispose of Jamila's body.
I think they probably, unfortunately, as terrible as it sounds, they may have mutilated the body to try to discard of her person, right? I don't know. We'll learn more about that. But I think that's probably why it took some time. Aiken, South Carolina, Aiken County is a rural area. You also was right near the Georgia line. So there's a lot of areas that people could hide things, whether it's in the woods, fields, buried. I don't know all the details. I really hate just seeing how beautiful of a person she was, her losing her life, painting these details. But there's plenty of places that these individuals could have attempted to hide the evidence of the murder.
So could Henley and Hampton turn against Harmon and testify against him if the case goes to trial? Bailey says possibly.
I definitely think they could. I think that's probably their one, depending on how solid this evidence is probably their best option is to testify, the term state's witness and admit to the fact that they did provide assistance, but they can shed information about what happened and how things went down.
Bailey says he doesn't see prosecutors offering a deal to Harmon.
I see these cases going to trial. I think with the attention on it, I think depending on how solid the evidence is, I see no reason that the prosecutors would offer a plea deal that would be advantageous to take. Maybe if they would say, give them the max or take a year off. In that situation, I know that the defense attorney and defendant will likely say they'll go to trial. I highly doubt that there's going to be any serious offer. I think that the family would need that type of closure as well. Is opening those wounds, but also holding the defendants accountable. But I just knowing the area, knowing that circuit, knowing the judges and lawyers over there, the prosecutors, I just don't see this case ending anything short of a trial.
But with the evidence seemingly pointing toward Harmon, Bailey says it could be a difficult case for the defense.
I mean, the only other tactic you could take in this case is either one, it was self-defense somehow, which I don't see the facts leading towards that, or two, you didn't do it. The state's not able to meet their burden in proving the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt, that there's some hiccups, whether it's improper searches, a shoddy investigation, just try to attack every little piece of the case to say that the state eyeballed him from the day because they knew they had a bad relationship, admit that there was domestic violence that they previously had, but that doesn't mean he murdered his ex-girlfriend in this situation. That's the only defense you can make. Now, is it successful? I don't know. I highly doubt it, but that's what I would try to make. You have a mother. She was a beautiful young lady who lost her life. She had 2 children as well. And already just the makeup, jurors are more conservative. They're more supportive of course, law enforcement. They're protecting women in this situation. And then you're going to have, not only do you have the defendant who's being accused of the kidnapping and murder, you have the accessories after the fact. I think that also plays into this. It's highly covered in the press. So a lot of people know about this tragic loss of Ms. Smith's life, her family looking for answers. And so all that makes it a hard case to defend.
Back in December, a judge denied bond for Daniel Harmon. If he's convicted of murder and kidnapping, he's facing the rest of his life behind bars. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.